What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with Joe's Kwame Fisher Jones. As always, I am him, and I'm joined by my NFL guru, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles, NJ.com. The vacation, Chris Franklin. Yeah, 3 weeks off, man, and I still see you posting minicamp videos. What's going on?
Oh my goodness, I'm feeling great, man. I'm so excited to be back. It's a fun time. The vacation time it is addictive. Sleep until
Yeah,
2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon is addictive, but you know what? You grow to miss the football time, and hey, we're back here. So I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on as always again, man.
man, vacation is a great time to eat. That's when because it's just you always got the time to eat. You're just eating, gaining weight, gaining weight. Then you look up, it's like, damn, I'm 15 pounds in the hole. I got to be on T. All right, let me get this together. So that's what I do on vacation. I don't know about everybody else, but that's what I do. I eat. I eat like it's no tomorrow.
You go from a Mike linebacker to an edge rusher, and all of a sudden you're wondering how do I go back down to this other way and be a will all of a sudden because you go too much. It's so
You
much
go from a
with that. It's so
linebacker
addictive.
to a guard. So speaking of overindulging, speaking of gluttony, while we were away, the NFL decided to back the truck up to Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa. And I, I am not the biggest Tua fan. I am a Jordan Love fan, but I'm always a fan of young brothers getting their money or young cats getting their money. So congratulations to them. But I'm going through the list of quarterbacks or top contract values, whatever you want to call it. So number one is Patrick Mahomes, 450 million. He signed that in 2020. Then you got Trevor Lawrence at 275, Joe Burrow at 275, Justin Herbert at 262, Lamar Jackson 260, Josh Allen 258, Hurts 255, Wilson 245, Colin. Like of these quarterbacks, of these contracts, Jared Goff 212, Kirk Cousins, one of these names does not belong. Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, one of these names does not belong. But as I rail these numbers off, just sticking with Tua, Jordan Love, I'm going to throw Kyler Murray in there, and I'm also going to throw Josh Allen because he's in the news. And of all the quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence outside of Patrick Mahomes, these monster deals. My first question is, what franchise is going to look back and want a receipt? Like want to do a Walmart return.
I think it's Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. And the reason
Okay.
I think it's that case is only because they finally are going to build around him. And I think by that time, the league's going to have him figured out. The fact they finally got Marvin Harrison Jr. for him, and they're finally trying to actually, build an offense around them and a steady organization. It's crazy. And you hear the stories about how the Cardinals were cheap. I mean, the fact you made those guys pay their meals before they stopped it, but you paid the meal leaving out the training center. And by the time you see that, it's like, come on now. And I think that's one of those things where it could be, wow, we're not really in the playoffs because the NFC West, we know the NFC West stuff. We're not in the playoffs, and we invested this much. We need to finally get away from it. I need to line my pockets. I mean, I need to find a way to pay Sunday ticket value. I mean, I got to find a way to do that. So there's a lot of stuff. I think now, don't get me wrong. Kyler Murray is a good quarterback, but when they look at the money for the return and then the wins that are going to be associated with it, I think that's where you're going to see the regret in terms of Josh Allen's a close second because I look at the interceptions. If you just do like the per interception, how much you're paying somebody, the Bills are going with that trend. But I think in the long run, everything Kyler Murray's the one.
I think the disarray in the AFC East plays into the hand of Josh Allen and his talent. I'm going to give you two names. My first name is going to be Trevor Lawrence. I'm starting backwards. The first one is Trevor Lawrence. However, I don't think Trevor's going to live up to the contract as far as production on the field, but I think the wins will accumulate because I really like Doug Peterson as a coach. And I believe he'll get the most out of the team, and therefore they'll win games. The AFC South, you got Tennessee. There's still Malik is their quarterback.
Tennessee,
Yeah, say
depending on who
exactly.
you're talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Will Levis is it Levis there too? Too.
I have no idea.
I
I
think
have no
it
idea
might
who
be
their
Levis.
quarterback plans are in Tennessee, let alone who their
Sure,
quarterback is.
yeah, yeah.
You got the Houston Texans. We'll see how things turn out. CJ Stroud looked great. I believe in D'Amico Ryans. That'll be a good squad, but I'm not ready to back. And the Indianapolis Colts, we'll see what Richardson does. But no organization, no franchise, no team in that division is like, okay, they're going to be a monster. So I think that helps Jacksonville. The number one guy they're going to want backseas on is Justin Herbert. Three coaches. He's on third coach. He's on his third. We can say whatever we want to say about talent. So his third coach, Anthony Lynn, the other guy, who's the other guy, and now Harbaugh. Now that's what it is. Anthony Lynn's the guy that came in. Excuse me. He's the coach. He was a guy that was he was forced. If I'm not mistaken, help me if I'm right here. It was Anthony Lynn, right? He was
Yeah,
he got pushed in by Tyrod Taylor getting stabbed in the lung.
yeah. He had that procedure where the doctor was trying to get something and he collapsed his lung, and then he was
Yeah,
out with that. And yeah,
yeah. That. So we Justin, you're up, and he played better than anyone thought. Since that point, I use this phrase for years now. The acclaim hasn't matched the achievement, and we'll see. We'll see as time goes on because the one thing about Harbaugh is they're going to trust Harbaugh more than they're going to trust Herbert. So if Harbaugh comes in after a year and says, "Look, this ain't the cap for me," and is ready to move on, I don't think the organization will hold on to him. I think they'll be willing to get rid of him and take the hit. And I don't believe Herbert is as good as it's kind of like the expectations for Herbert were so low that he was able to exceed those. So once he exceeded the low expectations, everyone thought he was much better than he actually is. So Herbert and I've never been in, you know that. I've never bought
yeah.
Trevor Lawrence. But Peterson as a coach in that division will keep them going. Now, we were talking before I don't want to call it a production meeting, but we were speaking, and you mentioned a name that's missing from that quarterback list. And I didn't think about it until you mentioned it. But when you see the names like Kirk Cousins, when you see the names like Jared Goff, and you don't see who am I missing here, Chris? Who's sitting down like, you know what? Okay, duly noted. We're gonna pay him. We're not gonna pay me. Okay, who am I missing here?
Mr. Yeah, here we go. I think that Mr. Dak Prescott, that guy, yeah,
Yeah, Coda.
he's sitting back and he's benefiting I'm thinking he's sending like crab like gift baskets. He's sending whatever it is because every new contract that keeps coming out here, he just gains more leverage as Cowboys. If they move on, you put him in free agency. It's that's
Mm,
everyone teams are gonna be fighting about him. Even if the Cowboys want to franchise him, which is gonna make them angry, they're not
yeah.
exclusive one.
I don't know if they can they franchise him? I don't know how it works because I know he
It's
had a deal where they couldn't, but then he renegotiated or whatever.
I believe he's up for one. I believe they can always rescind it. And knowing the Cowboys, I could see them going like, "Oh, I'm gonna put a tag on you." First 3 weeks of free agency goes by and goes, "You know what? We were wrong. Go ahead and check it out." And then all the money's going and like, "Come back to us." Is so
Yeah.
we always loved you. We always loved you. And that is Jerry thing. But nah, it's he's. I'll give him credit. He's taken it a lot better than I think most quarterbacks would. Because if you're supposedly the franchise quarterback, supposedly the guy who was in MVP contention, the guy who stuck with through things through these ups and downs and still continue to get better. Like last season was the best Dak Prescott we saw. That
Yeah.
version of Dak Prescott was. And to deal with all that extra stuff, and then you're going to disrespect them that way. I know you got Micah Parsons. I know you got CeeDee Lamb. You got so many people you got signed. The fact you didn't get your quarterback signed is a bad message. Like, you basically have two lame ducks and Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott together. It's setting up a bad situation for them.
This is where you and I differ. I don't think they're lame ducks in the traditional sense. They're moving on from McCarthy. They're moving on from McCarthy. I think everyone knows that. And this is kind of a let's see what you got, Dak, here. Because on the flip side of them not signing him, where are the options at for Dak? We all assume it would be New England, but they drafted a quarterback. So they may give this guy, they may give Mayo another year. So where can Dak possibly land on his feet? Las Vegas?
That could be a good
Las
spot.
Vegas?
I know
That's it.
and I know the Steelers traded for Fields, and they're hoping he's young. But if they get desperate enough, and they get the clamor for calling for heads there again, and they finish with another 9-7 season, they're out in the first round again. Just George Pickens start going, yo, get this guy, or I'm starting to get a little antsy and stuff like that. So it's so many. There's not that many teams, and you're going to think of one team. And I would laugh
Exactly.
so much. And Trey Lance, we know is not the answer. We saw that, so they're
Do we know
desperate.
that though? Do we know like realistically? We believe he's not the answer because Boy Wonder in San Francisco didn't say he was the answer. But I haven't heard stories about Trey Lance either way, good or bad, coming out of training camp. You know, if I'm Dak, I'm thinking like, all right, the seat is hot, but there's no cooler seat anywhere. Every team other than Vegas, and do you really want to go to Vegas? Because Devontae Adams appears to be out. We heard the Aaron Rodgers story that he looks forward to playing with him again. You know, players always know when the ship be sinking. So I feel like with Dak, Parsons, the Cowboys are basically waiting to see how things play out. And they're looking at the division. Philly's got head and shoulders the most talent, barring something unforeseen or some sort of injury. More than likely, the Eagles will be your champion in that division. The Giants are dysfunction they're as dysfunctional as you could possibly be as an NFL franchise. They are the XFL version of the NFL right now in New York. They're a mess. And then you got the Commanders, which appear to be okay, steadying the ship, but nobody's beating down their door. No one's believing they got any championship. So the Cowboys are basically seeing how it plays out. If they do move on from Dak, if they do decide to give Trey Lance a shot, if they do decide to move on from Mike McCarthy, it won't hurt them as much as people think because they're going younger, so they'll be able to sell the I guess the dreaded Sam Hinkie magic beans theory, if you will. So yeah, I feel like Dak in the beginning it looked great, but now I feel like the Cowboys. We're gonna go Vegas. Go to Vegas. You want to go to that dysfunction? You really want to go to Vegas? Like you really want to take the extra 10 million and go to Vegas? Dak because they know they got to pay him somewhere in the 200s. They've got to pay, right? Am I wrong?
Is that yeah? It's gonna be at this point. You're looking near maybe 45, near 50 in inflation. Well, it's the
Yeah.
way that everything's gonna go up. That's a lot of money. And then even then, and then you risk the guy coming back and he's upset and he's like, "What are you doing here? You're doing this." I just remember seeing a couple of videos. I know it's and training camp. I know it's tough, and I'm a culprit of this at times too. When you take those videos, you see a one little snapshot like that. I just remember looking at Trey Lance and his decision making on it was a two-man route. It looked like, at least from the video, like it was a two-man route on that side. His near side going staring down at the receiver. So the safety starts to move. Oh, okay, I'm going this way, and he still throws it. And all of a sudden, you see it take it back, and it goes for six. Nah, you've been in the league now since was it 2020 draft. If you're still staring down receivers, I don't care how much of it. If you're still staring down receivers and you're throwing that type of pass, I don't know. Listen, Chase Daniels has stayed in this league a long time, and he's got a lot of money, making a lot, and being a backup. Maybe that's his path.
Oh,
Maybe that's
Chase
his journey.
Daniels on me.
Is that one?
Oh wow.
Maybe
Look,
that's his. Maybe that's his future. I don't know.
I hope. Well, I won't say hope. I root for Trey, but that division, what was it, Division Two or Division Double A?
Well,
That
FCS, yeah.
that pipeline, that Carson Wentz pipeline there. Yeah,
Notice how that.
it doesn't play well.
No, notice how all of a sudden the quarterback pipeline shut down from there. Nobody really
Yeah,
wants to go there, and everything else is South Dakota State's not South Dakota State better than North Dakota State, you know. But yeah, it's bad.
we'll see how it plays out. Speaking of hot seats and Carson Wentz and making changes, a rumor came out, or Colin Cowherd just discussed this. I want to give him credit for this. He said at the end of the season, Howie Roseman allegedly wanted Bill Belichick for the head coach of Philadelphia Eagles. They were all but done with Sirianni. And allegedly, the captain, my man Jeffrey Lurie, who I believe in, I am a Jeffrey Lurie apologist. I am a Jeffrey Lurie dude. Comes out and says no, he wants to give Sirianni one more run. You are covering the Eagles right now. You are at every mini camp. You talked. Is there a sense? Well, first of all, is there any? I don't want to put you on the spot. Well, yeah, shoot, I'll put you on the spot. Is there
Okay,
any truth to this? That you do you believe there's any truth to this? And are you getting the sense that Sirianni is coaching? Whereas I don't want to say because they're always coaching for the job, but that he has some sort of extra motivation this season.
from the two I talked to, is it one, two? I didn't talk to her. There's two people I talked to, just like shooting the breeze, and stuff. And when it came down to Belichick's name was mentioned as a hey, we should kick the tires, but it was reverse. It was
Mm,
just like, hey, maybe we should talk just to see what it's like to see Bill. It was literally that one. How he immediately was working with Nick to try to get like the staff and do all the changes and stuff like that. They were working in
really?
conjunction. It was from what I've heard, is Jeffrey was kind of interested in like, okay, let's check it out. It didn't get too serious. It was one of those, all right, yeah, go ahead. It didn't get too serious. But if
It's
things
interesting.
go bad, like seriously bad, if I had a handicap right now, I think he either goes to New York Giants because I think Dable's done after this season. I think he goes rather. He think he's going to go back to New York,
Really?
but I think because I think they want to think because I think the Eagles are going to do well enough that Sirianni survives. But if they do finish like say like 10-7, 5 seed in a wild card with this roster and get bounced out in the first round, then I think that's one. And that's why I think you see a little changes. Like let's see like the extra conditioning in practice. You see the talk of being like the more hard nosed stuff and trying to get these guys up and ready because they're trying to change the thing like you want to compete and basically not have a replicate what happened at the end of the season. So you see a lot of that stuff in that way. But in talking when we talked to when we talked to Sirianni like before last practice, we had an embargo session, so a lot of our stuff's out already. So yeah, I asked him like, do you feel pressure because of all this extra stuff? He's like, feel pressure is a normal type of pressure. He just feels pressure like on his kids and everything else. So outwardly, he's like, no, I'm just cool. I just want to make sure he always feels pressure. I think it's one of those things where and he's one of those guys that actually like you can tell like he believes what he says. Like somebody's like, he lip service. Oh, I do can do this. And meanwhile, you're like, I just saw you like 2 minutes ago do something else like that. No, but
Yeah.
what he was doing, it seems like believe it. Now they start the season 2-4, 2-5. Yeah, I think you'll start to see a little like, whoa, like it's just it. I don't think he'll get fired unless they start 1-7, 1-8, and then Vic becomes like an interim guy or something like that. But yeah, nah, I think you see it. But this Belichick stuff, I think the Giants, I would say the Giants or the Cowboys would be, and I think the more Giants because Bill Belichick in Dallas having to listen to Jerry Jones tell him what to do, nah, it ain't working. So the Giants, and remember, Belichick has a history with the Giants beforehand. So
Yeah.
when he was in DC, so I think that would be the landing spot before the Philadelphia.
I will. I'll stand ten, as Chris Broussard says so much. I'll stand 10 toes down on Belichick to the Cowgirls. Like I think it's a done deal, and it just is what it is. Jerry doesn't traditionally fire coaches. I know he's fired one in the last 20 years, and obviously the big Landry firing, but he doesn't fire guys on their contracts. He usually just lets them play out and then goes there. But going back to the Eagles, I wanted to ask you because something was going on last year. Something outside of football that permeated on the field was going on last year. I want to believe it's whatever it was is gone. I am one of the few people that believe Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox leaving the locker room is a good thing. Their time had come. It's time to shift to a younger, different voices. So that helps. This roster has too many self starters, too many go getters, the proverbial go getters, to be a 10-7 club. I don't see a reason why, barring injury, they're not competing in the NFC title game at the end of the season. And then it's a matter of who's healthy and coaching. I don't dislike Sirianni. I don't like Sirianni. I just believe he's got the perfect club, so he'll be okay. I am curious though, who wanted Belichick? And then the bigger question, and you know this better than I do because you're in the media right now. Stories only get out because somebody wanted them out. Someone wanted that story out. Who? Was it Lori? Was it Howie? Was somebody trying to get pressure on Sirianni? Maybe he's doing, you mentioned changes. Maybe he didn't change something that they wanted changed. That's the thing that's got me really like, who let it out?
And remember that before we started hearing that Nick was going to be back, there was that week where basically it was radio silence at NovaCare,
Yeah.
which is usually weird. So I think it was more of a top down, like a lot of stuff, and really, and I hate when they say it like on like in the press conference, but it's true. A lot of stuff's collaboration. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was like say Jeffrey and Howie talking at first, and Howie's like, "Yo, listen, let's do this." and it's like just talk to see and just talks about stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if I think Jeffrey wanted to keep it a little hush, but maybe send the firing shot above, like you better have a good list ready to get to me, and so you stay because excuse me. Remember how they 86 Doug is because he wanted to bring
It would
Press
change.
Taylor. Yeah, he wanted Press Taylor. I forget the defensive coordinator contract. He was like, yeah, nah, this ain't going to work out, and then fired. So going to the same thing. Like I want to see your plan. What was going to happen? And Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio. Well, supposedly not Vic Fangio, but all of a sudden that he wants to leave the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Surprisingly,
So there was
mm,
were those Sirianni guys or were they Howie guys?
I think
Fangio and
one
Kelly.
was see Fangio worked with Sirianni beforehand during the
Mm-hmm.
2022 season. He was a consultant, and
Yeah.
I think that was the original initial plan. And Gannon dragging his shoes a little bit with the Cardinals and stuff like that, even though they contacted him beforehand and he didn't know. Oh, I don't know what happened. Pew pew, all that stuff.
You know what he's talking about. No, I don't know what
No,
that phone call was about.
the funny thing is to this day, I remember I was in the locker room after the Super Bowl loss, and it always is quiet, and you just see Howie and Jonathan walking side by side. You see them like that. I wanted to know. I wish I knew what they were saying. Like for it, if it was one of those, hey, are you coming back, or did you reach out, or somebody contact you, what have you? I wish it was something because that has to be so much. But yeah, I think that messed it up. And Kellen, I wouldn't be surprised as a Howie guy. I wouldn't be surprised. I have no thing, but Nick worked a lot with Kellen beforehand, and Nick really liked him. Nick said fast that he made these changes. He made sure to say these changes. So
Okay.
a lot of time, and Nick, the only time I remember Nick BS us was with the whole Seattle game with the, oh yeah, I called the play and I went to try to draw a pass interference and it was really Jalen and AJ, but that when that happened. But other than that, I know he's viewed Kellen, but Howie I think is really high on Kellen because obviously he brought him in twice for coach during the coaching process. So yeah, a little bit of that, mix that a little bit. I think it was a warning shot, and he was cool with it, and having them both on interview both of them in the morning. I think that saved his job because if he came back and said, "Well, I want to bring Brian back," even though I be honest, I think he was more of a scapegoat and a
Yeah, I
lot of
do
stuff.
too. I agree too. It's part of
If
the
it
course
wasn't,
though. It's part of the job, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
You gotta produce. So yeah. You use the phrase warning shot. Speaking of warning shot, my man, Lamar Jackson, received, I don't want to say it was a warning shot, a straight bullseye sniper from Super Bowl champion Mark Schlereth. He questioned if Jackson was a Super Bowl player. He questioned if he was a big time player. And he basically said this guy chokes under pressure. I don't have the quote verbatim, but that's what he said. Look, you shaking your head, no. I sat in this very seat and said this was Lamar Jackson's turn. This is a chance for him to step up. And he wet the bed. He didn't just wet the bed, he drenched that mofo. And normally, I've been around long enough I'm old enough to remember when a guy loses an opportunity. Betty, and I'm old enough to remember John Elway losing multiple games. And then at the tail end of his career, winning two Super Bowls, but in the process surviving almost being benched by Boy Wonder's father, Mike Shanahan. I'm old enough to remember Steve Young losing what was termed big games in San Francisco and finally getting the monkey off of his back and winning a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson is in that talent room. He is an athletic quarterback who makes amazing plays. But now, look, Chris, this is it, man. If they're not playing if they're not playing in the Super Bowl this year, and it doesn't matter that Mahomes is across from him, he's got to get it done, man. He's got to.
yeah.
I'm
Because when you
ready.
look,
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
no,
Floor is yours.
I'll say
Floor is
because
yours.
when you look, you add Derrick Henry. I know he's not
Mm-hmm.
prime Derrick Henry, but he's still a very expected top five Derrick Henry. You get that extra spacing now for your receivers to run. And all the guys, like, there's no excuse. Like, they have an
Yeah.
offense that's built and tailored around him, and this should be his peak season. And that's saying something with those MVP seasons that he's won beforehand. He needs to. This is the make or break season for him because you look at a lot of the things like we look at AFC and you look at the quarterback hierarchy. And you just look at overall, when you look at Baltimore, where their future's headed, and you look at these some of the age of guys, it ain't their window. Maybe a couple of years, 2, 3 years from now. Because I'm sorry, the Houston Texans are to me are going to be an ascending team. If Anthony Richardson is really good enough, I think the Colts will be an ascending team because they have some talent there. He needs to win this year and not just go. He needs to win the Super Bowl, not just go. Well, we got to the
Mm,
Super Bowl. Hey, we got to the AFC Championship game, and they need to with that. And it's tough to do it in that in AFC North. You get beat up so much.
yeah.
Bengals, Browns, and the Bengals, the Browns, and the Bengals, Browns, and the Steelers. The Steelers are not so much this year, but
You
so you
never
can't
know.
really.
Over time, they're always in the building. They're always somewhere in the building.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think this is the conference you truly need the 1 seed just to get a rest because we're going to play
Mm,
that bully ball physical style brand. It's going to take its toll. They need the
yeah.
1 seed, and I know they had it before and they squandered it. This year more than ever, they get a 1 seed. If they finish, I'm not trying to make a hot take here today. They finish 2 through 7. I just don't see it. Lamar can win a game here. Maybe he wins two, but he gets the AFC title game, and then he has to go on the road to Arrowhead. Forget it. You better hope that the Texans somehow get the 1 seed because maybe he has a shot. But other than that, nah, I just say it. And so he just plays. But to me, he's better in Baltimore. He needs that. He's got no excuse. He's got the talent around him. He needs this. He needs to win. He needs to get the best record in the AFC. And he needs to win the Super Bowl this year.
You know, you rolled off a bunch of reasons to excuse his failures, but there's no excusing. There's no like. There's always going to be an ascending team. Like it may be the Colts and Texans this year. Next year it could be the Dolphins and the Jack. Like it could. It's always going to be an ascending team. There's always going to be Patrick Mahomes. Your division's always going to be physical. Those elements are going to be there. They ain't going nowhere. So
True.
last year, I cannot get out of my mind him breaking through the hole, taking it to the second level, and then slowing down. When for years he would take off. Like it was like he was trying to prove that he can beat you from the pocket. And I got to give Nick Wright credit for this. I mentioned a couple of other guys already, but I got to give Nick Wright credit for this. This should set off alarms in everybody's head when the problem. Everyone walks away from the game and says the problem was we put the ball in Lamar's hands. That's our quarterback. That's our playmaker. And we put the ball in his hands. That was the problem. I can I hope, but hope is not a plan. I want to believe, but wanting is not needing. I don't see it, man. I don't see it. He's the Dominic Wilkins of the NFL.
Ooh,
He's the Charles
ooh,
Barkley of the NFL. And for those of you who are too young to remember, he's the Carmelo
ooh.
Anthony of the NFL. He's the Russell Westbrook of the NFL. You watch them, you love to watch them, but when it comes to nut crunch championship caliber football, he's not going to be there. I have no problem with saying it. And I feel validated in the begrudging feeling that I have. Players know before we do. So when a former player, like when and Mark Schlereth just doesn't throw stuff, like it's not his bag, that's not his thing. So when a former player, championship player, NFC championship player, NFC East player, and then went in the AFC and won, comes out and says it, I think it's as good as gold. What say you?
I'll I take something. Also, take a little bit of the errors as well too. Some of these guys that you hear from like the local. Well, my day I did this and we did this one and I made
Mm-hmm.
sure this one too. It's a different breed of athlete to begin with. So when you see the things of, well, he's just not taking it hard, or he's just sitting back and chill, or well, he's reading stuff whatever. We never did. Everybody reads this stuff. Well, that's the worst kept secret in the world. Everybody reads social media and everything else. Much like, no, I don't. Just say wait, but I don't think it's one of the. Yeah, if it's somebody, if it's Ray Lewis, especially that team, if Ray Lewis starts to go like, man, I don't know, squirrel out here, man, I'm out. That's when I start to see, okay, I got that too. If it's somebody even, I can see if Schlereth went after Dilfer like that. All right, yeah, too. But I just think he's a little too far away from seeing that. So that's why I give Lamar the benefit of the doubt in that aspect alone. But I just look at him and I just think, I see the talent, I see there, one of these years get out. You know, in a way, it reminds me of McNabb when everybody started when Rush called him just the successful one. See him wrestling ball with a hole. We want to see the successful
Yeah,
black quarterback, and
desirous
we're
to
putting
sing a
those in
black
there.
quarterback. Yeah,
Yeah. And then everybody started talking about, oh, McNabb only runs, he can't throw the ball. And what happened with McNabb? He started not running the ball as much. He became a pocket quarterback, and then it
yeah.
changed the way he played, and not to as much as it could have been. So I think he's going through that a little bit. Not to say that as much as McNabb went through that thing, but might be in his mind saying, well, if I want to run through the second level, no, let me slow up here, or let me run out of bounds instead of trying to vic it and just split to the safeties. But I think he's going through a little bit. But overall, I'm not too concerned. But he needs to, this year or next year, Lamar needs to win it for his legacy overall.
Yeah, his legacy. I mean, his legacy is to me. His legacy is set. That was his window. He's like Brock Purdy. That was his window, and they didn't. And things can happen 6, 7, 10 years down the road. But we're talking about legit being the reason why your team wins. I think that window shuts. All right, we got 6 minutes left. I'm gonna throw you a curveball. Give me your
Okay.
top three coaches in the NFL in
Ooh,
order.
okay. I'll go number one, Andy Reid.
Okay.
You can't, the success they've had, dynasty level type success, and the creativity he still has, and with that offense, and letting his coordinators do his thing. Yeah, he has a blind spot for some character stuff. Yeah, but he's number one. Number two, ooh, that's real tough. Like to me, Shanahan's not because Shanahan's a blind spot. Success wise, at McVay, I'll give McVay this because he spawned.
Really?
I'll give McVay that in terms of his offensive prowess in a way that he sets things up for everybody. Like
Hmm.
he sets up little thing with honestly the fact you get Puka Nakua and all those guys, you get the most out of them. All right, yeah, I guess, but that's tough. His defense that one too. Andy Reese is such a big thing. And then number three, oh, trying to go through the whole entire league now. I'm gonna
You want me to
go.
jump in and give you a chance to come back at it?
I'll go Dan Campbell three
Really?
because I think one
Interesting.
of the biggest, the only reason why I'll go Dan Campbell three right now is because for a coach, I think one of the most important things is you have to build a culture, and you need to get players to believe. And to build a culture and to turn things around in Detroit the way he has, it has that team believing, and has those young guys listening and buying in. If you can get Detroit of all teams to have the success they did, right, it's 1 year. But when you look at the whole entire thing, the way they set up and the way their mentality and the way they're physical, and they kept coming, that's a big, huge win. So, in terms of culture building, yeah, play calling and everything else, but that's why I put him at three. I'm going to overthink something. I'm probably going to think two and go 2 hours later. Hey, can I re-edit
Yeah.
this and change this?
But that's the best way to do a list because it's the first ones that come to mind. And you over time you convince yourself of other people, but you think of the
Yeah.
first ones that come to mind. So I wrote down these names when I first thought about it. These were the names I'm going to stick with. Number three is John Harbaugh. I John Harbaugh has won with different types of teams. He's won with different types of quarterbacks, and his teams are always competing at a high level. It's like a revolving door of talent, but he coaches them up. Guys, you very rarely hear guys doing Ray Rice aside. You very rarely hear about guys doing a lot of bozo crazy stuff, but on the field they play like maniacs, and I appreciate that about Harbaugh. And he plays in a tough division, but always has his team prepared. Number two is Andy Reid. Andy Reid has mastered the art of letting the cars ride. Like if you got a Ferrari, let it Ferrari be a Ferrari. You got a cheetah, let a cheetah be a cheetah. He's not out here trying to make Tyreek Hill a running back like Boy Wonder out here. He's not out here trying to, have guys playing cornerback when they're wide receiver like Belichick. Like you're fast, you're gonna run a 9 route. That's what you're gonna do. And that's what he does. You're little, we're not gonna have you. We're not gonna have you on 4-for-1. We're gonna have you on 3rd and 2. First and 10. We're gonna have you outside there. So, and I've got a talent at quarterback. Damn it, I'm gonna throw the ball all around the field. My number one coach, and I'm gonna give you a name, Antonio. I'm now on it now. I want to say Antonio Bryant, but it's
Or
not.
Gates?
Antonio, no, not Antonio Gates. The coach is Mike
No,
Tomlin.
I mean they get the Vegas. was like, well, why
No,
did I say
Mike Tomlin.
Antonio Gates? What the tight end? Oh,
Yeah,
right on. Yeah. Why did I say
yeah,
Antonio Gates? I remember it's probably sitting
yeah.
around going,
It's
I'm
the
a tight
crazy
end, man.
wide receiver whose name escapes you at the moment. But we saw
Antonio
how
Brown?
Antonio Brown. Thank you. We saw how crazy he was after the Burke hit. I butchered his name, but you know what I mean. After the hit, he lost his marbles. We saw how bad. I don't say bad person. Saw how interesting teammate Ben Roethlisberger's been. You know, the running back that was in LA Fitness during the football season, and then later on goes to the Rams. Or excuse me, the Jets.
Le'Veon Bell?
Later on, yeah, the Steelers were a mess, and that team was a great. That team was a good team. Pickens is a bad quarterback. Or Pickens is a bad quarterback. He's in Philadelphia now, but that team still manages to make it to the playoffs. He's never had a losing season. He doesn't get Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't get all the other talented players that everyone gets. He plays in a city where the only professional team, well, no, I guess the Penguins, if you're a hockey fan, with their stadium of like 15,000 people. So we'll give the Penguins some love. But he plays in that Bible Belt where Penn State is awful. You got Hershey Park and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's it. That's all you got in that direction. The Allegheny Trail or whatever. And he always manages to put out a quality football team. Now he's got Fields and Wilson, and I don't see a reason why they won't be good again and won't be in the playoffs this year. Now I'm not predicting Super Bowl, but I definitely believe they will be in contention. So those were my three coaches. And when I saw the question, I saw it's a great question. Who are my coaches? I gave myself like 5 minutes, and it was Harbaugh definitely, even though Lamar Jackson broke my heart. Broke my heart. Andy Reid for letting his players be his players, though, and for Tomlin for allowing talent to be talent. You know, helping guys get better, but also realizing that everybody's got a talent that they can use on the football field. So I mean, why think of, I mean, he's always had those players. Palomala, that was he was there with a Cowher, but he was also there with him. You had I'm drawing blank on guys, the big dude. Why am I drawing a blank with everybody? Anyway, you get the gist of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
So
got you,
those are
man.
my
You good.
three. Did you think of
Good choice.
anybody you want to throw on the list before we bow out?
I'm gonna stick with mine. I'm gonna
All right.
stick with it because I'm gonna. I'm saying Jonathan Gannon's not going to be on there.
No.
You know what? Shane Steichen give ask me in a couple of years. Shane Steichen might be on there.
Oh, I'm not as a change cycle. That's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you like the podcast, make sure you share, subscribe, do whatever your podcast platform allows you to do. He's Chris Franklin. I'm Kwame Fisher Jones. Until next time, we appreciate your time here. You be easy.